So Bill Maher was on his show on HBO, Real Time with Bill Maher, on Friday, and he was doing the overtime segment, which is put on YouTube, and he got in a discussion with some panelists about the Russia investigation, and it ended up turning into a debate between whether or not Trump or Pence would make a better president. So let's see what he had to say.
This might be a dumb question about the Russia thing, but like, if the Mueller report comes in anytime this year before the election, right, then it'll be close to over once he gives his report. But if it happened after 2018, it would be better for the Democrats, right, because they then might be in power. In other words, wouldn't it be better if the Mueller report came in 2019 when you could impeach him? If it comes in 2018 when you can't impeach him because the Republicans won't go along with that, doesn't it then just die in the woods?
Well,
so can't you just stall?
That's messing with the process.
Like they did with Gorsuch.
What do you get for Mike Pence?
right now in our committee,
Mike Pence is way preferable to Donald Trump.
That's
He's
probably
ultra
That's
conservative.
definitely true.
Yeah.
Ultra
He's-
conservative.
First of all, he's not a Russian spy.
Yes. Yeah. He's not as.
He's not wearing clown makeup. You know, there's a
Yes,
lot.
And he
Yeah.
knows governance. He
Yes.
knows governance. He knows how to govern.
Yes, he's not a complete nut. He's Bush. He'd be Bush.
More to the right than Bush, but he won't take us to nuclear
Yes.
war.
Right.
what I was going to say is,
So yeah, let's rehabilitate a fucking war criminal like George W. Bush. He's Bush. He's Bush. He's not going to send us into nuclear war. You know what? Bush did send us into 2 wars, Iraq and Afghanistan. I think Bill Maher might have even had a show when that was going on. I think he may have called Bush a war criminal because he fucking is. Are you seriously trying to say that Donald Trump is just Bush, like that's a thing? Now, I disagree with that. I don't think Trump is anything like Bush. Maybe they have an IQ level that could reach the double digits if they were added together. But other than that, they weren't really the same at all. And the only thing they had in common was that they were just tools of the establishment. Donald Trump is not a swamp draining crusader. He is a swamp creature. He's the man in the lagoon. Like, all of his financial advisors are from Goldman Sachs, Gary Cohn and Steve Mnuchin. He's bought out like every other president is, and it's not a surprise. But Mike Pence is a little different because he is an establishment bitch boy. Donald Trump at least has some anti-establishment streak in him where he doesn't want to bow down to everything everybody says, which is why we had the first government shutdown, because he wouldn't sign the bipartisan agreement on Dreamers. But Mike Pence will take his marching orders and carry them out. He will not be tweeting Rocket Man at 3 a.m. He will be asleep, waking up early, and working on policy to screw over the average American as much as possible. So if you think that Donald Trump is worse than Mike Pence, tell me if Donald Trump thinks these things that Mike Pence believes. Let's start with gay rights. So Mike Pence is a Christian extremist who believes in homosexuality being a sin against God and nature, and he believes in conversion therapy using electrical shocks to cure homosexuality. Now, that's absolutely retarded if I've ever heard anything. Let's just fry their brain until they can't think thoughts anymore, and maybe they won't even know what gay is. I don't know. He's pushed for legislation that is religious freedom laws, but that's just thinly veiled words for we want to discriminate against the LGBT community or anybody else based on their sexual or, identity or whatever. It's like the Christian baker who wouldn't make the cake for the gay couple. So they also was staunchly opposed to same-sex marriage. has called for a repeal of Roe versus Wade, is huge pro-lifer. That's probably his number one personal goal in politics, is to stop abortion. I think he deep down really believes abortion is murder. And I'm not gonna hate too much on him for his beliefs. It's a touchy subject. I don't agree with abortion, but I'm pro-life. Or I'm pro-choice. I'm sorry, God. Can't believe I just said that. No, because when you say you're pro-life, that means you're anti-choice. I wouldn't want an abortion if, my girlfriend was pregnant. I wouldn't want her to have one. But I wouldn't want her to have to go to jail and be charged with murder if she decided with her own body to do that. So that's just a little nuance. But, I mean, his religion leaks into almost all of his policy. And it can get really dangerous when it comes to Jerusalem and Israel. So he was giving a speech a few weeks ago in front of the Knesset, which are essentially the Senate for Israeli politics. And he gave a very, very disturbing speech, basically, saying that the U.S. Embassy was going to be constructed early in Jerusalem by 2019, year ahead of schedule, that they would be combating Iran and Syria to protect Israeli, hegemony in the region, or, their attempt to have hegemony in the region. And he's a complete Christian Zionist. And Christian Zionism is such a stupid thing. Zionism, period, is a stupid thing. It's the belief that the Jewish people deserve their own country because they were persecuted for a long time. It's fucked up they were persecuted, but there's a lot of people who have been persecuted for a long time that don't have their own country. It doesn't make you entitled to one. But that's what evangelicals like Mike Pence truly believe. He truly believes in the mission of moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, because in the Bible it says, Israelites return home. That's when Jesus is going to come back, essentially. Or it's one of the steps in the process of Jesus coming back, because they're still working on it. I'm still waiting because, I've been told I'm wrong. So I'm waiting to... I'll change my mind if he does come back. Don't get me wrong, but... This is what our international policy boils down to. It's so fucking crazy. It really all boils down to the end times for the Christians wanting to bring back Jesus. For the Israelites, it's just wanting to have their land that they believe is theirs, given to them by God. And then there's everybody else in the region who's fighting and using Syria as a proxy zone for getting into just the messiest quagmire imaginable. He's fully throated support, or he's given his full throat support to Netanyahu. And I mean, oh, wrong way. Full throated support. I mean, tie Netanyahu to Jared Kushner. I know it's not Mike Pence, but isn't it a little strange to anybody else other than me that when Netanyahu was a young diplomat, he would stay at the Kushner's house and sleep in the bed Jared's Kushner slept in? He wasn't in the bed with him, don't get me wrong, but the Kushners had that close of a relationship with the future most powerful man in Israel. Because the most powerful guy in Israel is not the president, it's Bibi Netanyahu. And I just found that a little convenient. Like, is anybody else seeing something here? Like a pattern building with the Trump administration in Israel? They talk about Russian collusion. Did you know Jared Kushner's family was involved in the sale and finance of illegal settlements in Palestine? Israeli settlements. that the Jared Kushner Foundation, or it might just be the Kushner Foundation, what his parents were involved in was to buy illegal settlements from the Israeli government. They had Netanyahu sleeping at his house when he'd come to America for diplomatic reasons. And nobody sees anything weird there. We just did a huge weapons deal in agreement with Israel and Saudi Arabia. Something to look into. So when you get past the Zionism, there's a lot more. Because it's not only affecting that part of the Middle East, but more directly, it's going to impact the Palestinians. We've cut their aid. That's not Trump's doing. That's people like Mike Pence. That's the Zionists in the American government. And they're on both sides, too. Zionism, even Bernie Sanders is a Zionist. And it's honestly disappointing because it's the only thing I probably disagree with him on. I mean, but it's such a stupid position for anybody to take, to say that you deserve that land more than anybody else when we drew up borders dividing it in 1967. This was supposed to be a video about Bill Maher and being a fucking idiot, which he is sometimes. He has good points other times. But Mike Pence is a monster. A fucking monster. He's received money from Eli Lilly and Co. If you've watched any of my recent videos, you know about them. They're the same company that our head of Health and Human Services, Alex Azar, just retired from. They are also in the production of anti-opioid medication. So if you overdose on opioids, or if you want an alternative like Suboxone, I can't remember what exact prescription they make. I think they might just make a generic version of a painkiller. But yeah, so they're fighting to lower drug costs and to fight the opioid epidemic. No. He has received money from the retirement industry. That's his top industry donor. I guess people really resonated with his gray hair he's had since forever. He's received the most money from the Club for Growth, which is a right-wing think tank, a free market bullshit operation. And then, get this, because this ties into the next story. His third largest, or fourth largest donor was the Associated Builders and Contractors. In Indiana, he sold a 165-mile highway, or he didn't, but the governor before him sold it to private companies to privatize the roads because that's what they want to do. It's a really shady operation, or practice, I should say. But it basically allows him to use taxpayer money to subsidize companies that will end up profiting off of that and then owning that for an extended period of time. So in this case, those two companies actually owned this highway in Indiana until 2085, or until they went bankrupt. Of course, they went bankrupt by 2014 because shit doesn't work. And he's going to try to do that to our entire infrastructure. The infrastructure plan is really Pence's plan. He's the guy behind this. So just keep your eyes out, man. And to Bill Maher, you're so wrong. I don't know how else I can say it.